Good morning, Philippines! Magandang umaga, ISUites. Today is the 16th day of August 2022. This is Blas, always taking the lead, bringing you the front news nationwide, cause it's the Frontline. And now, for the headlines. The creation of the Department of Fisheries and Aquatic Sciences should be an urgent bill. The West Philippine Sea under Marcos administration. Chinese Coast Guards driven away some Filipino fishermen in Baho de Masinloc. Creation of the Department of Fisheries and Aquatic Sciences should be an urgent bill. Ines reporting.
Thank you, Ellen. Some stakeholders in the fisheries sector are calling for the legislation to be passed by the Department of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources to be certified as an urgent bill by the administration of the President-elect Bongbong Marcos. And according to Attorney Asis Perez, the convener of Tugon Kabuhayan, no Department of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources or DFAR bill reached the second reading in the past Congresses. And according to him,
na ngayon yung Bureau of Fisheries is operating on a budget of about 4 billion. 4.5 to 4.6 billion lang. Ang liit ng budget ng Bureau of Fisheries. Yet, ang ganda na, yung output niya is 4.4 million metric tons. Imagine yung 12 billion, what it can do. And the good thing about the Bureau now is hanggang tagos na yung structure niya hanggang probinsya.
according to Ramon Magsaysay, awardee Roberto K. Baldevarona, also a Tugon Kabuhayan convenor, if the Department of Fisheries is promoted, there will be a seafood security.
In order to strategically develop and utilize the country's fisheries and aquatic resources and curb poverty in the rural areas where most of the country's fishermen live, this bill proposes the creation of a Department of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources which shall be responsible for the development and management of fisheries and marine resources in the Philippine waters, including the exclusive economic zone as well as the protection and conservation of the nation's marine wealth. The department will also ensure that the needs and concerns of the fisher folks are adequately addressed to ultimately help them move out of poverty.
The West Philippine Sea under Marcos administration. Narne reporting.
It's been 6 years since the Philippines won the arbitral ruling against China. The reported entry of Chinese vessels into the West Philippine Sea and the militarizations in some islands continue. In fact, the Department of Foreign Affairs continue to file protests against China. What people can expect from the Marcos administration in the fight for country's territory and sovereignty in the West Philippine Sea? President-elect Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. stated in an interview that diplomacy is the key to the issue and that a bilateral agreement is the only remaining option. The Philippines can no longer rely on such arbitral rulings because the other party refuses to accept them. But according to Supreme Associate Justice Antonio Carpio, it remains valid. A few months later, the President reiterated his position on the issue, stating that he would use the arbitral ruling to assert the Philippines' territorial rights. According to him, the country's sovereignty is sacred and will not be compromised in any way.
We talk with China consistently with a firm voice, and we say that hindi naman natin pwedeng girahin. At ang gusto ba natin gawin yun? Manggigera pa tayo ngayon, papasok pa tayo sa gera. That's the last thing we need right now. And nasa atin na yung arbitral ruling. So we have a very important ruling in our favor. And we will use it to continue to assert our territorial rights. It's not a claim. It is already our territorial right. And that is what the arbitral ruling can do to help us.
Former Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert Del Rosario, who led the filing of the arbitration case in 2016, expresses gratitude to Marcos. He also hopes that, for the sake of the Filipino people, the President-elect will stand firm in his position to the issue. He stated that the President has many options, including continuing to assist the arbitral ruling in the United Nations General Assembly, gaining support from other countries that believe in the said ruling and the rule of law, and holding China accountable for the environmental crimes it committed in the West Philippine Sea.
We certainly welcome this new position of Marcos Jr., which is the only correct position that any president of the Philippines can take on the West Philippine issue.
Incoming National Security Advisor and retired political professor Clarita Carlos stated that the Philippines will continue to file diplomatic protest under the Marcos administration, but that the Philippines should continue bilateral talks with China and other claimant countries in the West Philippine Sea.
We will continue to file diplomatic protests, no? Never mind that we're filing 10,000 of them, because if we don't, that means we acquiesce to the situation on the ground.
With the arrival of the new administration, many Filipinos hope that the country will stand up for its rights and that no Filipino fisherman will harass in his own territory.
Administrative Order Number 29 naming the West Philippine Sea of the Republic of the Philippines. The administrative order, consisting of 11 sections, decide to name the West Philippine Sea of the Republic of the Philippines. Section 1 to 3 establish that the maritime areas on the western side of the Philippine archipelago are named as the West Philippine Sea. These areas include the Luzon Sea as well as the waters around. Within and adjacent to the Calayan Island Group and Bajau de Masinloc are also known as Scarborough Shoal. The naming of the West Philippine Sea is without prejudice to the determination of the maritime domain over territories which the Republic of the Philippines has sovereignty and jurisdiction. The National Mapping and Resource Information Authority shall produce and publish charts and maps of the Philippines reflecting the West Philippine Sea accordingly.
Chinese Coast Guards driven away Filipino fishermen in Bajo de Masinloc. Updates from Leia Baldevarona.
Thank you, Ellen. Some fishermen were driving away by the Chinese Coast Guard in Bajo de Masinloc. Fishermen are scared to catch the fish in the ocean for a while. Some fishermen in Masinloc, Zambales is driving them away in Bajo de Masinloc. 2018, some fishermen from Zambales were intercepted by the Chinese Coast Guard and took their caught fish. According to Fishing Ban coordinates, Bajo de Masinloc is included the area covered by the fishing ban implemented by China. 2021, the China Ministry and Rural Affairs announced the fishing ban or suspension in the Bohai Sea, Yellow Sea, East China Sea, and South China Sea. Fishing ban will start from May to August 16. The Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA has filed with a protest stressing that China annual fishing moratorium extend far beyond China's legitimate maritime entitlement under UNCLOS and is without basis under international law. China cannot legally impose nor exposure such a moratorium in the West Philippine Sea.
The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or also called the Law of the Sea Convention or the Law of the Sea Treaty, is an international agreement that establishes a legal framework for all marine and maritime activities. As of June 2016, 167 countries and the European Union are parties. The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea was adopted in the year 1982. It lays down a comprehensive regime of law in order to the world's ocean and seas, establishing rules governing all uses of the oceans and their resources.
The time is 30 minutes past 9 a.m. Again, this is Ellen Blas, always taking the lead, bringing you the Frontline News, cause it's the Frontline.